ABC24 This Week starts right now.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on ABC24 This Week. I am your host, Pepper Baker. You are here for the real stories behind the big stories, and I hope you'll continue to join us every Sunday at either 9 a.m., 10:35 p.m., or by streaming 24+, our first time live on 24+ right at this moment. All right, let's see who is at the table today. As always, ABC24 political analyst Otis Sanford. We have Susan Thorpe of Thorpe Communications, and we have Reverend Kenneth Whalum of New Olivet Worship Center. Thank you all so much for being here.
Let's go.
Okay, now to the topics. We are devoting the first two segments to congressional redistricting. During the special session this week, Tennessee lawmakers passed and the governor signed off on effectively dismantling the state's only Democratic majority black congressional district, which is District 9, representing Memphis and Shelby County. For the last segment, we'll talk about the Shelby County primary election outcomes and voter turnout, and as well as what's next for the ones who didn't win. And for the first time since, we are live on 24+, we're adding an additional topic exclusively for our stream, and that will cover the Shelby County election, or the Shelby County Commission's decisions on MSCS and filling in the late state representative G.A. Hardaway's seat. So let's get to number one. The Supreme Court's ruling over a Louisiana congressional district almost immediately implicated Tennessee. SCOTUS determined race cannot be a factor when drawing congressional districts, effectively rolling back Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that protected minority voting power. Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn wasted no time calling on state legislators to reconvene and pass congressional redistricting legislation targeting District 9, the state's only Democratic majority black congressional district running right through Memphis and Shelby County, a seat currently held by Democratic Congressman Steve Cohen. Within 48 hours of Blackburn's demands, Governor Bill Lee called a special session in Nashville, which was quickly surrounded by thousands of protesters. Within a few days, the Tennessee House and Senate passed a new congressional map, splitting Shelby County into 3 districts that will favor Republicans. I found this back and forth between Democratic Senator London Lamar of Memphis and co-sponsor of this legislation, Senator John Stevens, pretty interesting. And then you'll hear from Congressman Steve Cohen.
To the sponsor, are you aware that Memphis is predominantly African American?
I am not.
So to my sponsor, who went to law school at the University of Memphis and lived there for 3 years, you're telling me you're not aware that Memphis is predominantly African American. Am I correct?
Senator Lamar, he's answered that. Next question, please.
Is the sponsor aware that Shelby County is predominantly African American?
Senator Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not aware.
Senator Lamar.
Are you aware that Tennessee's 9th congressional district is the only majority African American congressional district in this state?
No, I have no knowledge of that.
So when you were drawing the lines, were you unaware or aware that you were slicing African American voters in Memphis, Tennessee into 3 parts?
Senator Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This proposed map divides Shelby County into 3 districts. It maximizes the Republican chances of carrying all 3 districts.
Congressional District 9 was not created because it was black. It was just natural because that's what the population was here in Memphis, and Memphis had a congressperson, and that's what it became. They took this as an opportunity, running to change the district and get themselves another vote.
Now, I do want to note that we couldn't get interviews with Republicans, and to our knowledge, there weren't any known press conferences offering their side. One quick last thing, Senator Blackburn added her reaction on a repost of our breaking news coverage on X by saying it's a great day for Tennessee. She went on to thank President Donald Trump, Governor Bill Lee, and the legislators for working quickly, and ended the post with, "This is how we cement President Donald Trump's agenda and usher in America's golden age here in Tennessee and how we become America's conservative leader." I'm going to open it up to Otis here. So a lot of this is race versus partisan. Which one is it when we're talking about the argument here, or is it both?
Well, it is both. And I've been on record all week as talking about this. This is blatant racism. There's no other way around that. And it's a good thing that Senator Stevens was not under oath because he would have perjured himself. How can you go to law school at the University of Memphis and not know that this is a majority African American city and a majority African. If he really does not know that, he does not need to be a senator. There's just so much to unpack here. I'm just not going to spend a lot of time doing it because I've said it already. This was wrong. It was blatantly wrong. Before we started the show, I had a conversation with former Congressman Harold Ford, Sr., who is livid about all of this. He was the one who flipped District 9 from a Republican seat back in 1974. It was held by Dan Kirkendall, and it's been a Democratic seat ever since. But it wasn't drawn as a Democratic seat. District 9 has been, for the most part, except for some changes after the 2010 census and the 2020 census, it has been what it has been forever. And Harold Ford is going to get personally involved in this. He's going to be in Memphis. He's going to mobilize people, but he's not going to focus on the race part. He's going to focus on the fairness part, going after independent voters everywhere, and he intends to try to help the Democratic Party field candidates everywhere.
To your point about, touching on history and Democrats as well, in retrospect, let's play devil's advocate here. Did Democrats have they been dropping the ball for years to get to this point? Oh,
I think you have to say yes in a lot of ways, and not just here in Tennessee. I think Democrats have been kind of short-sighted everywhere, especially during presidential elections. Because let's be honest here. This whole thing is because of what happened at the Supreme Court and who has appointed the majority of Supreme Court justices over the last 20 years. It's been Republican presidents. And so that's where we are. And, the fact that we've been asleep at the switch nationally and in Tennessee, that's where we are.
Susan, I see you writing notes there. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to say something that might inflame a few people, but I think, following what Otis said, I think the Democratic Party is to blame to a large degree. Over the years, when you consider the kind of representatives they have sent to Nashville out of the Memphis area that have not been respected in Nashville. And I think that that's been a problem. But, I want to go to this Representative Stevens, or Senator Stevens, whatever he is. If he's a lawyer, I sure wouldn't want him representing me. He's either a liar, as Otis said, or a fool, an idiot. And how do you not? There's not a student in the United States that studies American history that doesn't know that Memphis is one of the few majority African American cities in the country. And in Memphis, you cannot extract Democrat from the word black, Republican from white. Partisan politics have always been embedded in racial politics in Memphis, as long as I can remember. And to say that this redistricting is not done based on race is a flat-out lie.
Well, okay, so here's a couple of historical notes. My father introduced me to politics because he was the man for George Grider, who preceded Kirkendall. That's a point of
who was a Democrat.
For me. Yeah. Right, which is where I got my first taste of distasteful politics. But secondly, whether or not the redistricting has to do with race or was motivated by race, I don't know, because I know Otis will recall this. I was redistricted out of Orange Mound when I was on the rise politically. I don't think that had anything to do with race. I think it had to do with politics. But eventually it became about race, because when they moved me out of predominantly black Orange Mound into predominantly white another district, then I didn't have as good a chance to be elected. So I can't question people's motivation. I won't call somebody a racist, because you don't have to be a racist to have discriminatory impact. It's called disparate impact versus discriminatory intent. And if the results are discriminatory, it doesn't matter what the intent was, you can still prove racial discrimination.
Look, I'm not calling anybody a racist. What I am saying is that you cannot, in Memphis, and it's historically true, divorce Democrat from black and,
true.
and Republican from white.
That's true.
That's the way it is, and they know that in
Yeah.
Nashville.
Yeah.
And what they did is wrong.
Well, very briefly.
Briefly.
I'm not going to call any one person a racist, but I am going to call actions racism. And that's what this is.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So now that we've talked about what is, we're going to get into what is going to happen next. Stay with us. So now that Tennessee Governor Bill Lee signed off on the new congressional districts, what's next? Well, here are some ideas.
There will be a lawsuit in state court. I'll be a plaintiff, among others. If that's effective, Congress District 9, as it's been known, a majority-minority district, will continue till 2028. At that point, there might be other lawsuits challenging this redistricting.
Secede from the state of Tennessee now. Let's get our attorneys and let's get them together and let's start looking at how we can begin this conversation and start making a move to disassociate ourselves with such an entity that mistreats our people.
We're going to register every voter I can talk to. We're going to poll watch because they're going to steal it. You know, we're going to get so many people out that they're going to have to. We're going to make it easy as possible for folks to roll up in those polls, vote like our lives depend on it. It's time to fight for what we love, good people. I want you to spread the word. Don't let them normalize this.
And the NAACP Tennessee State Conference filed a lawsuit to block the state's redistricting attempt. It's 15 pages. We do have the link to the full suit on our website. State Senator Brent Taylor also announced his run for Tennessee's 9th Congressional District with a post on X showing his press release announcement. He also mentions endorsements from Senators Marsha Blackburn and Bill Hagerty. Reverend Whalum, I will open it up with you. Lawsuits, seceding from Tennessee, and mobilizing the vote. I mean, are all these things, which one of these things can happen and which one stands the most chance?
Seceding ain't gonna happen. Secede from Tennessee? Come on, man, that's not gonna happen. I'm gonna assume that Representative Parkinson was speaking out of emotion, and I'll just leave it at that, but seceding ain't it. Now, 1926, 100 years ago, Jim Crow. Jim Crow that's the reference I keep hearing. That's the flavor of the day in terms of references. Jim Crow, we're going back to Jim Crow. Well, when Jim Crow was really alive, the black community thrived more than it ever had. Why? Because we opened our own businesses. We supported one another in business. in 1926. Orange Mound was not a ghetto. Orange Mound, South Memphis, all over Memphis, there were black-owned businesses up and down every street. Park Avenue reminded me of Park Avenue, New York, because of black businesses. That was during Jim Crow. Well, if we're going back to Jim Crow, we better go back to black people supporting each other in business. And the lawsuits are going to happen. All of them are going to happen. All of them have a chance, because that's what happened the last time we had Jim Crow, because the NAACP and others filed these legal actions to move the United States toward fairness and justice. The thing is, it took time. It took years. I don't know how long it's going to take this time, but what we can do has nothing to do with the lawsuits. What we can do is what we are not doing right now in large numbers, and that is black people supporting each other in business. And I guess the sad thing about it is that the result of all of the civil rights actions and lawsuits was that it enabled black people, my parents included, to move out of the ghetto. And what we did as a people was we moved out of the ghetto and forgot we had moved out of Orange Mound. And we didn't support Orange Mound. And Orange Mound, I'm just speaking of Orange Mound because that's where I'm from, died on the vine in terms of economics. We have another chance. We have an opportunity to breathe life back into our community, regardless of who's racist, regardless of who's talking about seceding, which is ridiculous. We can take matters into our own hands.
Go ahead, Susan.
Lawsuits will have a chance, absolutely. Otherwise, why even bother go to court? Yes, they do have a chance. And as far as secession is concerned, I don't know where Antonio Parkinson's coming from. Well, where does he think we're going? I mean, we're going to Arkansas or to Mississippi? Which one is better than Tennessee? So, you know, the whole thing is embroiled in hot, bombastic rhetoric, and I think over time it'll calm down, but I cannot wait to see how the lawsuits turn out.
Otis, I know you want to touch on lawsuits, but the way the districts are drawn, is there any hope that if you can get people to get registered, could Democrats overcome in any of the 5, 8, or 9 districts?
Well, people are already registered. We had 577,000 people in Shelby County registered to vote. It's getting them to the polls. And again, I referenced Hal Ford Sr. a minute ago, and we agreed that the makeup even of these redistricted districts is still majority independent. We have a certain amount of Democrats registered. We have a certain amount of Republicans. They are basically the same. It's the independents who have traditionally voted Republican over the last 15, 20 years that have allowed the Republicans to have the control that they do. He's going after that.
Let me jump in because I want to explain this. It's not just the lack of the dilution of the black vote here. What's going to happen is that the votes will be weighted towards Middle Tennessee, and Memphis will be completely lost in the political fray.
Well, but it will be if independents in all of these districts vote with the Republicans. I'm not totally sure they're going to do that because of their distaste for what's going on here. And let me just briefly respond to something Ken said here. Yes, I agree with a lot of what you said, but it sounded like you were sort of glorifying the Jim Crow era.
No, I was glorifying the black independents that thrived in the midst of the Jim Crow, because of Jim Crow. Man, black people, my grandfather wrote a newspaper. He owned a newspaper in 1926, and they only did it because white folk wouldn't give black people a chance. That's what I'm saying. No, I'm not glorifying Jim Crow.
Okay, but it came out that way, and that's all I'm saying.
Okay, all right, on that note, because we're running into time, we're going to get into Shelby County primary elections, which kind of took a backseat to everything. So when we come back, we're going to talk results and what's next for the people who did not win. All right, so much going on this week. We can't forget the Shelby County primary election happened, so let's get into results of the top races. Shelby County Commissioner Mikkel Lowry won the Democratic nomination for county mayor. Lowry will now go head-to-head with former state representative John DeBerry, who ran unopposed on the Republican ticket. Now, in the race for Shelby County Sheriff, Chief Deputy Anthony Buckner finished strong, leading the pack with 59% of the vote. Buckner now faces off against Republican candidate Brad Bless, who won by 61%. Now, for the Shelby County Clerk's Office, LaSonia Hall came out on top with about 31% of the vote for the position previously held by term-limited Wanda Halbert. Hall's Republican opponent will be Tina Montgomery. And speaking of Wanda Halbert, she came in a close second for criminal court clerk. Joe Towns won by 121 votes. He will go up against the only Republican candidate for Shelby County criminal court clerk, that's Eduardo Jameson. Now, for the 4 Memphis Shelby County School Board seats, incumbent Michelle McKissick will keep her seat on the board with 65% of the vote. She'll represent District 1 for the next 4 years. For MSCS Board District 6, Terrence Harris beat Miranda A. Williams by 119 votes. And moving on to MSCS Board District 8, Tanya Frey came out on top with 61% of the vote. And finally, MSCS Board District 9, a close call. It came down to 27 votes. Incumbent Joyce Coleman taking the win. Voter turnout was slightly higher than years past. The Shelby County Election Commission shows 89,948 voters cast ballots during the 2026 primaries. That's 15% of registered voters in the county. In comparison, voter turnout from the August 2024 general election was at 13% during that period. Data showed out of more than 590,000 registered voters, 77,000 went to the polls. All right, I'm opening up. Susan, let's start off here. Was Mikkel Lowry a surprise to you, and how will he kind of match up against John DeBerry?
Not at all. I thought he was the kind of candidate of the ilk of Paul Young. He was young. He's certainly an attractive candidate, and it didn't surprise me at all, nor did it surprise me that Fagan's lost. So where do we go from here with Fagan's? What Smiley does, I have no idea. I think he's rotating off the council. And Fagan's, I think she needs to find a new hometown and go somewhere else. But I still don't understand why anybody would vote for someone who's suing you. I mean, if your tree in your backyard fell in your neighbor's backyard and he sued you, would you vote for him for association president? I don't think so. So I think it's time that the Fagan's era in Memphis comes to an end.
Not going to happen.
Not with this guy.
About to go to Reverend Lalem.
No, so
disclaimer, you did endorse Fagan.
I supported her, endorsed her, and that's why she came in third and not last. But here's the deal. Here's the deal. With the lawsuits that she has pending, she ain't going nowhere, sister.
No, she's not.
And I think the facts, as the lawsuits proceed and evidence is received and testimony is taken, light is going to be shined on a lot of situations and people, including some that some of us know very well. I would recommend that she not move, that she gear up for a long legal battle and make herself available to make speeches and remain on the scene publicly, because that's what she's indicated she wants to do.
Well, and one thing out of these elections, if you don't mind me saying, we don't have Wanda to kick around anymore.
Close second.
Close.
It's a close second.
But that doesn't say anything about Wanda. It says something about the voters.
Yeah. I will say, I thought Fagan's ran a very impressive grassroots campaign.
With almost no money.
Right.
And at the end, and on election night, she refused to let the press in.
That's been a problem all along.
And that's because of Otis. No, I'm just, go ahead.
Yeah.
Otis, which one stood out to you? There's honorable mentions here. I mean, assessor of property, county trustee, and for the sake of time, we couldn't get to county commission. But MSCS, any of the other races that stuck out?
Well, the thing that stuck out to me the most and didn't get a lot of attention was that county clerk race. LaSonia Hall, there were 11 candidates there. And she won fairly easily, even though she didn't get over 50%, but everybody else was trailing her dust. And that's because she is a very attractive candidate.
Right.
And I think you can look at her going forward for some big things here. The other person that impressed me that didn't get any attention was the school board member who won a county commission seat, Amber Hewitt
Garcia.
Yep.
She sure did.
She won very easily. And I'll say one more thing. I thought that even though she was sort of outnumbered by the media attention, I thought Heidi Kuhn ran a really good race. And you know, I'm not in the business of picking people to go to county government. But if Mikhail Lowry wins in August, which I expected he will, I think he ought to include Heidi Kuhn in his administration in some way.
Wow.
Because I think that, well, she's done a really good job as a criminal court clerk. She's very organized. I think it would be smart to
And her number one guy came in third in that race behind Joe Towns and Wanda Howard.
Well, another thing that we didn't really touch on because we didn't have time was the fact that Joseph Lee won the trustee's position handily and won it with the endorsement of Regina Morrison, who is the outgoing trustee.
That's right.
Joseph being a past treasurer of the city of Memphis, being past president of Memphis Light, Gas, and Water, and being endorsed by the incumbent, I think is going to stand him in good stead as the banker for Shelby County moving forward.
Will we ever see, you know, to your point about Heidi Kuhn maybe possibly going, if Mikhail Lowry should take her in, will we see that with any of the other big names? J.B. Smiley, I mean.
Well, I don't know what's the future of J.B. Smiley after he leaves the city council, and that would be next year in 2027. I do think that he still has some political aspirations. I just don't know what that is. People thought he was going to win this race, and he didn't. And this was the second time, believe it or not, that Mikhail Lowry has defeated him, because he ran against Lowry in 2018 for a county commission seat. I don't know where J.B. Smiley
ran for governor last time.
And he lost that too.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think there's a caveat too with regard to black voters, the black vote that everybody seems to be so concerned about, and talking about how the redistricting effort is going to hurt the black vote. Otis is the most brilliant analyst for Memphis political history that I know, and he is always talking about how pitiful turnout is. Man, black folk haven't been voting in the last 50 years. That's just a number.
But I bet you.
And we got a government they don't want.
I bet you it will be different in August and November.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, I sure hope so.
Okay, lively discussion. Thank you all for being here. Please watch 24 Plus for our additional segment. And if not, thank you for joining us for ABC24 This Week. I hope you'll join us next week for ABC24 This Week. Well, for this last bonus segment, the Shelby County Commission made two impactful decisions this week. The first, in a special called meeting Monday, Shelby County Mayor Lee Harris asked the commission to reallocate funds of up to $200,000 to support a lawsuit against the state intervention of the Memphis-Shelby County School Board. The resolution passed in an 8-3 vote. Commissioners Amber Mills, Brittany Thornton, and Mick Wright voted against it. And a touching moment during Wednesday's special called meeting, commissioners voted to appoint T.J. Hardaway as a temporary representative for District 93, the seat his own father, the late State Representative G.A. Hardaway, once held for nearly 2 decades. Here's T.J. Hardaway's emotional remarks on the last year he spent with his father.
Last year, I spent various moments, one-on-ones with my father for no other reason than I wanted to know more about the man that I am compared to on a daily basis. It didn't take long to find out that I already knew this man because I already know myself.
T.J. Hardaway was sworn in on Thursday. Voters in District 93 will elect a permanent representative during the November 3rd election. Let's start with T.J. Hardaway, since we're ending with that soundbite there. I think this is just, it warms my heart. Otis, I'll have you touch on this. Just, was that the right decision?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a temporary decision anyway, and they just wanted a voice up there for that District 93 for the vote that they had on the redistricting. I thought his comments were very touching. It would warm anybody's heart because I've been there. I was at the bedside of my father. I was at the bedside of my mother. And so I know the impact that parents, good parents, can have on you. And so, yeah, that was absolutely the right thing.
Oh, I agree, totally agree. It was a nice tribute to his dad, who served well, and he served for a long time. And he really won't be participating in the state legislature very much because it's a very, very, very short term. Right. And if he wants to keep that seat, he has to run for office. And
as a write-in, apparently, unless they change everything about the filing deadline.
That's right.
Yeah.
So here's an anecdote before TJ was even born. GA and I grew up across the street from one another in Worthington, off Parkway. When we were little boys, my family was in the house eating dinner. And we hear somebody just banging on the door, banging on the door. We open the door, it's GA screaming and crying because I just saw your dog get run over. Our dog was named Inky, and he was run over on Parkway. And GA is the one who came and told us. So he was more concerned about our family's dog than he was about his own. And I think that bespeaks his servant's heart, even as he grew into adulthood. So that predates TJ, and I'm sure TJ didn't even know that.
And I hope he will consider running in or writing in on the election, because TJ Hardaway is an easy name to remember to write in.
It is.
Let's switch gears to the first part, the approval of the funds for the MSCS lawsuit. We'll start with the former school board member. Reverend Whalum, was that the right decision by the commission?
Heck no, absolutely not. To sue the body that created you. Think about that. The creation sues the creator. The county commission and the school board are creatures of the state. But be that as it may, everybody knows that's how I feel about it. However, I think what is more interesting is the fact that now Mayor Lowry spoke out against the takeover, the intervention. He spoke in favor of the lawsuits. It's just going to be interesting to see how he navigates it now as the county mayor, who has to go to the state for resources. I don't know how that's going to play out.
You just said that you don't think that they should sue the body that created them.
That's right.
Right. But on the other hand, Marie Fagans is suing the people of Shelby County who gave her a job.
No, she's suing the school board.
Oh, who do you think's fine?
That's who terminated her.
Who do you think's going to pay for any kind of money that she wins? We are. The people.
Well, now the school board is.
No, oh yeah.
With our tax dollars.
Our tax dollars. That's exactly right. And that brings me to the county commission. I'm go back and forth whether they should or whether they shouldn't, but sue the state. I think it's a waste of money. I think it's a waste of time. Although they have every right to sue. Maybe they'll win. Maybe they won't. I doubt it.
Lawyers
but
will get rich.
Whose $200,000 is it? Our $200,000. It's taxpayers' money. Let's not forget where the money comes from.
Otis, you can have the last point here.
Well, let me just say that whether they win it or they don't win it, I think they have a right to sue.
Absolutely.
I mean, the fact is that we don't have a king at the White House. We don't have kings and queens at the state legislature. And they have done everything they could to make sure that people don't question their actions. They're the ones who passed a law that said the school board cannot sue me for what I'm going to do to them.
They say you can't sue me with
taxpayer money.
Well, with taxpayer
you can
money.
Sue all day long.
Right. Okay. Well, all right. But I still say they have a right to sue. Their government a right to hold a public office was upended here. So they have a right to do that. And the same thing with the redistricting. They have made it very difficult to challenge what they are doing by creating, you have to have a 3-judge panel in order to sue them in state court. They are acting like the kings and queens that we are getting out of the White House with his wannabe king. I just think that, yes, they may not win, but let's sue.
And clarify this for me. $200,000 from the county commission, is that reallocated funds? Where is that coming from? Is that not taxpayer dollars?
It's all taxpayers.
Well, it's all taxpayer money, but I'm sure that they're going to be using some rainy day reserve money to do it. But yes, it's all taxpayer money.
They got money out there in the corporate community. People will pony up $300,000 if that's what they need and put it in their pockets. Don't spend the taxpayers' money.
All right.
And they can sue, like all lawyers say. When in doubt, sue.
Well, there's a lot more to come from that. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you all for staying for the bonus segment. Thank you for watching. Be sure to watch ABC24 This Week every week. Thank you for watching.